We're live. Yay. So welcome to the DGR open mic from our lovely conference in Philadelphia. We have a room full of very talented people here, ready to entertain you for an hour or two. And this is a fundraiser. I can't forget to say that. It is a fundraiser. So we have a number of ways. Oh no, turn that off. That made a huge glare. Yeah, the ones behind you need to go off. That's what that glare is from. Turn those off. No, that's what's making the glare. Sorry, everybody. Yep, one more, the tall one. Oh, much better.
That's visually okay?
I mean, it's a little darker now, but we don't have that ridiculous, I guess we could have, people were live, like, we did what we did. It's all fine. We are people who do not like technology, so it works or it doesn't, and that, whatever. So now we don't have the glare, but now we have the light. For me, this is the important thing. Okay, so if you know how those work, that's a QR code, and it will take you to the fundraising page. Also, you can just go to deepgreenresistance.org, and there's a donate button, which you're probably used to, so you can just donate from there. So, all right, so I'm gonna start with a song. I'm gonna sing. This song was written by Nanette Sawyer, and it's called Earth Sister. I am the earth, she is my mother, I am her sister, she my lover, I am life, she is my power, I am blood, she my mover, I am bone, she is a mountain, I am stone, she my body, I am a mother, she is my child, I am the earth, she is home. Earth, sister, mother, lover, life, blood, power, mover, bone, stone, mountain, body, mother, earth, child, home. And now we're going to hear from Mary.
Hello, everyone. We are hosting an auction along with this fundraiser of some wonderful items that have been contributed by Deep Green Resistance members and conference attendees. So I'm here to tell you what is up for auction. And you can view the auction again at this website. So what we have available we are putting up for auction a DGR core literature book collection. And that includes 6 books. One second, I have to look at it. The books that we are including are, of course, Deep Green Resistance, then also The Vegetarian Myth, Bright Green Lies, Endgame Volumes 1 and 2, and The Myth of Human Supremacy. So you can bid on that whole collection of books, and we'll send you all the books in one package. They will be signed by both Derek and Leah. The next one, this is super exciting. Derek is offering for someone to name a character in one of his upcoming books. And we are actually putting 2 of those on auction. So two winners can name a character after themselves or after, within reason, name it anything that you like. And you will also receive a advanced copy of that book. Of course, as always, we have a batch of Lierre's famous gluten-free brownies. We have 2 batches of those up for auction. And she will ship them directly to your door. We have a member here who lives on a huge, beautiful farm in Central Virginia. And it's an intentional community. So she's inviting someone to come and tour their community and stay with them. And you can stay in their guest room and see all the beautiful land there. for one night. She'll host you, and you'll have dinner with the community members and find out what they're up to. There is also a DVD of a Noam Chomsky documentary film that we're putting up for auction. And we have a member who makes beautiful handmade fine art, and she's offering up a wall hanging. So you can go here to bid on any of those items, or to just simply donate. Thank you.
And this song is called Forest. You guys, you gotta be quiet. Forest, darkness, underneath her sweet caress, wash away the blood stains, hold against the pain. I am young for what I've done, but all the battles I have fought, none I've won. Warriors and blood I've lost, comrades I've dragged across fields and rivers to graves of sand. For these lands, he's beneath her hands. Gather up these tears again, drink long and deep till when all this bloody carnage ends. But till then, from the finest steel make me a sword. I'll gather up an army on the proudest horse. I'll carry your standard to war. Forest, darkness, come and press your lips to mine before it's time to go.
Hello, my name is Chris. I'm not actually here to present a talent, but I am here to introduce each act after the air. Also, QR code again. And next, you're going to hear from Cass. And I'm not even going to say what they do either because they're going to keep you kind of surprised. So yeah, here's Cass with some. QR code again, and then after she answers the door, the wonderful Nita.
All right, Nita.
Hi. I'm going to tell a story about a journey that I made to Greenland and the message that I received about global warming. This was about 20 years ago, and we still called it global warming. We didn't call it climate change yet. I was a journalist before, and I realized that facts were not what we needed in the world, so I got into healing, into energy healing. And I became a sun dancer and a pipe carrier here in the Native American tradition. And I got into shamanism, and I talked to the spirits. And the spirits told me to go to Greenland, and I didn't want to go. And I didn't have the money to go. But somebody called me up and said, we'll pay you $5,000 for a translation. The exact amount of money I needed to go. So I went. I got there and we went out. I joined a group of people that were being led by a Greenland shaman. And he was an Eskimo. And mind you, in Greenland, they insist on being called Eskimos, not Inuit. So we were out on the tundra camping. And I had been told by the spirits to do a ceremony and to ask what to do about global warming. So the first thing that happened when I got there, we were camping about a mile away from where there was a big cliff, and the glacier was melting, and there was an enormous waterfall coming down where the glacier was melting, and of course, the global warming. So, and on the cliff, I looked, and there was my name written, NITA, in great big letters, and it was so clear that when one of the Eskimo women asked me what my name was, I had to test it, and I said, well, it's written on that wall. And she said, Nita. I mean, it was that clear. So I said, yes. So that night I went out and I did a ceremony with my drum and so on. And I asked the glacier, and her name was the Big Eyes. And I asked her, what do we do about global warming? And her answer really surprised me. She said, don't try to stop it. She said, because the earth is giving birth and the waters are breaking. And she said, you're interfering with the giving of the birth. And that's a different way of looking at it. And I never knew what to do with it. But I came back to the United States with this message. So thank you.
We're gonna take on the TV and turn it this way.
All right, Mary's gonna hop back in again and provide a talent, or just check in. Okay, yeah. While we do some logistics behind.
I'm really just here to encourage you again to bid on our auction items and to donate. If this QR code is not working for you, the link has been posted on YouTube, which is where this live stream is originating. So for the auction, we have a collection of DGR core literature. We have a lovely trip to a farm and intentional community in Virginia. There's some handmade wall art, a DVD about Noam Chomsky. We have Lierre's famous brownies, and there is the opportunity to name a character in one of Derek's books. So go bid on those fantastic items or donate to support DGR. Thank you.
Next up, we have Stuart. I know this is going to be entertaining.
Okay, let's try to do this thing. All right. Everybody, this is not exactly stand-up. I'm going to tell a story. Yeah, first of all, my feet hurt too much. Let's start there. But I hope that I'm not one of the, I hope that there are people in the audience who remember being an environmentalist in the 90s when things were somewhat less bad, but even weirder in a lot of cases. I'm going to just tell one story from my first year as the leader of the Green Party of British Columbia when I was 21. I had a superb volunteer. In fact, he just recently got back in touch. And I feel small pangs of guilt telling this story about the volunteer, but he will not be named. If he hears this routine, I hope he appreciates that it is said affectionately, but it's about those stories of managing volunteers. And I'm talking about managing dedicated volunteers. Many people, the number one problem with volunteers is they're not dedicated enough. Occasionally, you have the opposite problem. And this guy could move heaven and earth. For those of you who've seen the Canadian classic TV series, Trailer Park Boys, which describes, well, it's really a debate about how to interpret St. Augustine's doctrine of original sin, but we'll leave that alone. The key thing is there are these characters, the most committed volunteers, Corey and Trevor. Ricky will ask them to do something clearly illegal and totally impossible. And as long as the camera's following them, they fail. But when the camera leaves, mysteriously, whatever they've been asked to do, they succeed. So to give an example of why I continue to work with this fine man, when he was living on a Maoist commune with no car, an hour up a dirt road from the nearest community of 5,500 people, I called him in 1997 and said, how would you like to be the Green Party candidate in the riding of Caribou Chilcotin? All you have to do is somehow find $1,000 and collect signatures from 100 people and get to the town of Williams Lake, only 200 or 300 kilometers away, to this office in the next 46 hours. We felt no need to call him again. We knew he would be there. And this is perhaps his greatest series of intrepid feats. They are known as the Goatman Chronicles because he had an extraordinarily caprine nature. The beard, the frequent autoerotic activity, the ability to eat anything at all, no matter how disturbing, and the work ethic of a goat. When a goat walks to a fence, he sees that post and he thinks, there's something on the other side of that fence. Now, I could walk down the fence a mile that way, and maybe I'll get through. There could be an opening in the fence 50 feet that way, I could get through. But here's what I'm certain of. If I ram my head into that post for the next 3 hours, it's going down and I could walk through the fence. And he brought that kind of problem-solving acumen to many, many situations, extraordinary situations. And in this case, he was not doing volunteer work for me. The man who canceled me, my longest-term political organizer, Jeff Berner, had come up with a plan to replace ads in bus shelters with ads he printed himself. And they were wonderful, like, worried about the future? Don't worry, there is no future. There are no jobs. And another classic was 1 million gallons a minute. That's how much toxic effluent is pouring into the Salish Sea. And hey, that's just fine by us. A message from Environment Canada. So there was one problem. He got the ads printed, but you needed a special screwdriver that was in the head office of the advertising company, Seaboard Advertising, owned by BC's second billionaire, the great pornography distributor and host of the Expo 86 World's Fair, Jimmy Pattison. And I said, I can't do anything about that, Jeff. But then Jeff went to Goatman and explained the severity of the situation. And I didn't really hear anything more about it. I was 21 years old. I was living in a ratty basement suite in East Vancouver with my girlfriend. And there was a knock on my door at 6 a.m. one day. Goatman was there. He said, they've stolen my van. And I said, how is this possible? Who would wish to steal your van? Now, the van was a classic 1960s Volkswagen van with bald tires, the whole deal, everything you would want. It was white, it was blotchy, and the undercarriage had completely rusted out. And he'd spent 4 months lying underneath the van, replacing the entire undercarriage with epoxy resin. And on one occasion, I'd run into him. He was wearing a trench coat and he was covered in epoxy resin, and he was drinking vermouth out of a paper bag. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I've determined this is the cheapest alcohol by volume I can purchase." And I said, "This is the problem of being a know-it-all." I said, "You're totally wrong. You're totally wrong. Ginseng brandy is the lowest alcohol by volume. It's technically a pharmaceutical. You can get a quart for $2.70. And this was a life-changing experience and helps to explain my responsibility for many of the things that went wrong thereafter. So there's this knock at my door, and Goatman is there. He says, "It's still in my van." And I said, that's not possible. He said, "Can I come in?" And then he occupied my apartment for the next 60 days. He knew that I didn't want him to be there, so he would never, ever leave. He would just sit in the dark and read newspapers that I had left around and mooch food off us. And he knew that if he stepped outside the apartment, we weren't letting him back in. So, and then the story came out. In fact, the people who had the van were the cops, because he'd been up for several nights drinking ginseng brandy, because you can't sleep if you drink too much ginseng brandy. Ginseng's a stimulant. So after many nights of insomnia on my solid recommendations, I'm sort of, am I allowed to continue? Okay. Many nights of insomnia, he thought, you know what, I'm going to do that favor for Jeff. And so he got in his van and he drove to the Seaboard Advertising. And even though he had suffered an injury as a young man and had strangely caprine legs because of it, he nevertheless was able to vault over the fence with, he just threw his leather jacket over the barbed wire, leapt onto the Seaboard Advertising property, ran across, and with a crowbar breaks into the operator's office, searches the place, and somehow finds the screwdriver against all possible odds. And he grabs the screwdriver, he runs back, and there are the cops impounding his van. And then he realizes, I think I left my wallet and my keys in the Seaboard advertising office with all my ID. So, so anyway, so we were getting some calls, visits from the cops while he was hiding out in the apartment. And finally, said, all right, you've got to go. And so he said to my ex-kid, can I stay with your parents? You know, they did say I'd be welcome there anytime. I said, well, they live 90 minutes up a logging road out 6 hours north of the city. It's a dirt logging road, you know, I don't think your van is going to make it. But this man is capable of superhuman feats. And in this feat of strength, he drove all night with all of his possessions in the van, arrived at my ex's parents' place, sat at their kitchen table for about 8 hours, realized they were probably out of town. And he didn't want to impose on them by leaving all of his belongings there. So he dug a pit next to the house, wrapped all of his possessions in a tarpaulin, buried them, and then began driving back. And at a certain point, he fell asleep at the wheel because he'd run out of ginseng brandy. And the van drives into a ditch. The front windshield falls out. And he somehow he flags down a tow truck, gets pulled out of the ditch, then tells the tow truck driver he doesn't have any money. The guy curses him, rides off. He dutifully takes the windshield, which is in the ditch, puts it in the back of the van, and begins driving through the rainstorm. But he turns on the windshield wipers to deflect individual drops of rain. And he manages to get back. Now, how on earth do I know this story? I'm not an omniscient narrator. Well, I was at the annual general meeting of the Green Party's Vancouver chapter, was held a few months later, and he was the treasurer, and so he didn't want to do another term because he'd moved. They actually quite liked him up there. He helped them look after the goats. They had a great time. And so he's got this, anyway, so he's turning the ledger over to the new treasurer. And he says, you know, well, we came in with this much money, give a very disciplined financial report. And I said, why is there mold in the ledger? And this story was given as a response to a question about the Green Party Vancouver chapter 1993 financial report. I think it is, without a doubt, the best financial report I have ever heard in my life, and was not really the beginning or the end, but the middle of many great adventures.
All right, here's that QR code again, and next we have Paul. All right, anyway, Paul.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to sing two short songs, each of them by a different artist, either by or about a famous person who I've been a fan of for years, who has just died in the last week or two. The first one's by Tom Lehrer. Did you know Tom Lehrer just died? Tom Lehrer just died. Yeah, amazing. This is a completely politically incorrect song called National Brotherhood Week. Pretty much all of his songs were politically incorrect. Oh, the white folks hate the black folks, and the black folks hate the white folks. To hate all but the right folks is an old established rule, but during National Brotherhood Week, sing along if you know it. National Brotherhood Week, Lena Horne and Sheriff Clark are dancing cheek to cheek. It's fun to eulogize the people you despise, as long as you don't let them in your school. Oh, the poor folks hate the rich folks, and the rich folks hate the poor folks. All of my folks hate all of your folks. It's American as apple pie, but during National Brotherhood Week, National Brotherhood Week, New Yorkers love the Puerto Ricans 'cause it's very chic. Step up and shake the hand of someone you can't stand. You can tolerate him if you try. Oh, the Protestants hate the Catholics, and the Catholics hate the Protestants, and the Hindus hate the Muslims, and everybody hates the Jews. But during National Brotherhood Week, it's national, everyone smile at one anotherhood week. Be nice to people who are inferior to you. It's only for a week, but have no fear. Be grateful that it doesn't last all year. And it may take me a second to find the other one, so I might just. Which one are you looking for? Can I come back after the other one? I have another short song. I don't have to find 2 tabs on my phone yet.
We'll have Mary come back again to let everybody know what they're going to be bidding on. She'll be right here to remind you. Oh, you did? Okay.
Should I?
Just kidding. It's Paul again and then Mary again.
So one of my dearest, my primary life mentor, Joanna Macy, died a couple weeks ago, and I had known Joanna for 43 years. I was at Joanna's very first ever training for workshop leaders and went on to found her work in Britain, which was not at all what I thought I was about to do with my life, but it was my first extraordinary social change adventure in my life in my mid-20s. And I led workshops all over Britain in my mid-20s. Very long story, which I will not tell at all. There is a wonderful group of 2 women who call themselves Mamus. I bet a few of you have heard of Mamus, although they're West Coast. So maybe East Coasters don't know Mamus, but they're very well known on the West Coast. And Joanna had an expression which anybody who knew her work was familiar with, which is the great turning. And Mamus wrote this song in honor of Joanna, and it's called We Shall Be Known. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change, alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change, alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Thank you.
I have been informed that I am very much underselling this Noam Chomsky film. This is apparently a very well-known film called Manufacturing Consent, and it is fantastic. So go and bid on this on the website. We are also offering a whole collection of DGR-related books. There are 6 of them all together. We're calling it the Core Literature Collection. So you can round out your library with that book collection. You can also get even more involved and you can name a character in one of Derek's books. What else do we have? We have a beautiful handmade wall hanging made by one of our DGR members available for bidding. And there is a trip to a farm and intentional community on beautiful land in Central Virginia. Am I missing anything? Oh, the brownies, of course. Lear's famous gluten-free brownies. And she will have them baked fresh and shipped right to your door. So bid on those items and also be sure to support Deep Green Resistance. We need all the help we can get to save the planet. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Jonathan.
I'm going to sit down to do my stand-up. Okay, I can be overly serious. I know that. Thank goodness I have a wife who brings laughter and levity to the day. Exactly when it's needed. She'd be very proud of me for doing what I'm about to do. 101 dad jokes. I asked the surgeon if I could administer my own anesthetic. He said, "Go ahead, knock yourself out. Rim shots whenever you want." My doctor told me I'm going deaf. That was hard for me to hear. I told my dad, "I'm having an allergic reaction. We need to get to the hospital." He said, "Well, let's not make any rash decisions." I've used sweeteners like Splenda and Sweet and Low for years. My doctor told me I have artificial diabetes. Call it a hunch, but I'm pretty sure I have an abnormal convex curvature of the spine. The man who invented throat lozenges died last week. There was no coffin at his funeral. A duck walks into a pharmacy, asks for some lipstick, and says, "Put it on my bill." "Dad, I think I suffer from kleptomania." "You should take something for that." At first, I thought my chiropractor wasn't any good, but now I stand corrected. A guy walks into a bar, and that's how he lost the limbo contest. A horse walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Hey." The horse says, "Sure." I quit my job at the helium factory. I refuse to be spoken to in that tone of voice. How many narcissists does it take to screw in a light bulb? One. The narcissist holds the light bulb and the rest of the world revolves around him. A construction worker digs 3 holes and says, "Well, well, well." I lost my job at the orange juice factory. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't believe my dad had been stealing from his job as a road worker. But when I got home, all the signs were there. I used to be a freelance journalist, but I wasn't very successful. Lance is still in prison. I was fired from my job at a calendar factory. My bad. I took a couple of days off. If at first you don't succeed, skydiving is not for you. Broken guitar for sale, no strings attached. The best gift I ever received was a broken drum. You can't beat that. What music frightens balloons? Pop music. When I was working at Burger King, Andrew Lloyd Webber came in and asked for 2 Whoppers. So I said, "You're looking good and your musicals are great." One thing I learned from Brad Pitt, don't be a name dropper. Yeah, I lost that one. I've been watching a channel on TV. It's all about origami. It's on pay-per-view. Yesterday, a clown held a door open for me. I thought it was a nice gesture. We went to see a play. The actor fell through the floor. He was going through a stage. I'd like to go on a diet, but I just feel like I have way too much on my plate right now. I asked my date to meet me at the gym, but she never showed up. I guess she and I aren't going to work out. No, they're dad jokes. You're supposed to groan. The problem isn't that obesity runs in your family. The problem is no one runs in your family. I said to the gym instructor, can you teach me how to do the splits? He said, how flexible are you? I said, I can make Tuesdays. My landlord told me, we need to talk about this big heating bill. I told him, sure, my door's always open. When I bought a universal remote, I thought, this changes everything. I've been looking at my ceiling. Not sure if it's the best ceiling in the world, but it's definitely up there. My time's up, but I'll give you this one. Have you heard about the new restaurant called Karma? There's no menu. You just get what you deserve.
All right, I have a quick one. It's two vultures are eating a clown, and one vulture turns to the other one and says, does this taste funny to you? All right, and to close this out, now we have Derek. Oh.
Let me talk.
We'll let Mary talk one more time, and then Derek.
I forgot to mention that the auction is open for 4 days. So it closes the day after the conference is over. So it will be open for bidding until 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, August 5th.
So I'm going to read something. I'm going to read the most beautiful thing that I ever wrote, and I didn't actually write it. It was written by a stream, by which I don't mean that I wrote it sitting by a stream. I mean that the stream wrote it. And the way it came to be written was that I wanted to write something about what it would be like to be a river. And I spent weeks unable to write that. I just couldn't do it. And then I realized that that was kind of a stupid thing to do, to try to write something from the perspective of a river when I live 100 yards from a stream. Why don't I just go ask the stream? It'd be like me trying to write something about what it's like to be a woman when I can just ask one. So I walked down to the stream and I said, what is it like to be you? And I realized in the moment that this is the fundamental question, I think, in any relationship, is just to ask the other person, what is it like to be you? And that's a question we don't often ask, especially of rivers or streams. So anyway, I asked this stream, what is it like to be you? And the stream had been waiting for a long time for some human to ask that question. And it gave me the answer immediately. It was the whole piece came to me in like 1 second. And so then I had not thought ahead far enough to bring a pen or pencil. So I went running back to the house. And as I'm running back to the house through the forest is saying, hello, you want to ask us what it's like to be me too? And so this is what emerged from it. I went in and wrote it down. I didn't even really edit it. Pretend you're a river. Pretend you are the mist who falls so fine, so gentle, that nothing separates water and air. You're the rain who falls in sheets, explodes onto the ground to leave pocs and puddles. You're the ground who receives this water, soaking it in, or soaking it up, taking it in, carrying it deep inside. You're the cracks and fissures where the waters accumulate, flow, fall to join more water and more, in pools and rivers who move slowly through cavities, crevices, pores. You're the sounds and silence of water seeping or staying still. You're the meeting of wet and dry, the union of liquid and solid, where solids dissolve and liquids solidify. You're the pressure who pushes water through seams. Sorry, the technology failed me. Back up. You're the meeting of wet and dry, the union of liquid and solid, where solids dissolve and liquids solidify. You're the pressure who pushes water through seams. You're the rushing water who bubbles from the earth. You're a tiny pool between rocks. You overflow, find your way to join others who, like you, are moving, moving. You're the air at the surface of the water, the joining of substantial and insubstantial, the union of under and over, weight and not weight. You're the riffle, the rapid, the tiny waterfall who turns water to air and air to water. You're the mist who settles on the soil. You're the plants who drink the mist, and you're the sun who warms and feeds them. You're the fish who feed on insects, who feed on plants, who feed on soils, who feed on fish. You're the fish who become soils, who become plants, who become insects, who become the fish who flow down the river. You're the river who joins other rivers to become a new river who's all the rivers and something else. You are the river. You do stop at the banks where liquid turns to solid. You reach into the sky and into the soil. Water moves through rocks, comes up to form pools far from the fast flow where the rivers move together, seeps down to join still waters deep below the surface, waters who sleep and wake and sleep, and mingle with the stones who are the river too. You are the river who's married to the mountains you have known since they were young, who've given themselves to you as you've given yourself to them. You're the canyons you nestle into, each year deeper than the year before. You're the forests who give you their fallen trees, and the meadows you feed, you flood and feed, and who feed you back their fruits and fine insects who fly to your surface to be taken in by the fish who with their own bodies again feed the meadows. You're the river who feeds the ocean, who feels the tides pushing and pulling against your mouth, the waves mixing fresh and salt. You are that intermingling. That's who you are. That's who you've always been. You are the river. You've lived with volcanoes and glaciers. You've been dammed by lava and ice. You carry log jams so large and so old they grow their own forests, with you running beneath. You've lived through droughts and floods. You are the river. You miss the salmon. You miss the sturgeon. You miss the ocean. You miss the meadows. You miss the forests. You miss the beavers and otters and grizzly bears. You miss the human beings. You are the river. You want them back. You want to feel the tickling of the sturgeon, the thrusting of the salmon. You want to carry food and soil to the ocean. You want to cover the meadows as you used to, and you want to give yourself to them, and you want them to give themselves to you as you've done forever and as they have too. Now, pretend you're a forest. You are the bark of trees and the hairy moss who hangs from them. You're the duck who becomes soil, who becomes trees, who becomes seeds, who becomes squirrels, who become owls, who become slugs, who become shrews, who become soil. You're the trees who cannot live without the fungi, who cannot live without the voles, who cannot live without the trees. You're the fire who cannot live without the trees, who cannot live without the woodpeckers, who cannot live without the beetles, who cannot live without the fire. You're the wind who speaks to the trees and the trees who speak through the wind. You're the birds who sing and the birds who do not. The salamanders, the ferns, the millipedes, the bumblebees who sleep on flowers waiting for the morning to warm you up so you can eat and fly on home. You too have lived through drought and flood, hot and cold, and you too miss the salmon. You miss the owls, the grizzly bears. You miss the rivers. You miss the human beings. You want them all back. You need them back, or you will die.
All right, everyone, that is all of the talent for this evening, but also know that the the raffle auction, wow, words, is open until Tuesday, and you can always donate as well. Here's a QR code, all the links.
We'll share that QR code on our social media.
QR code will be on the social media. Have a great night.
All right.